Hello, everyone. I'm Ron Booth. I'm your host for tonight. And tonight, we plan to have a candid and comfortable conversation with the candidate for District 5, Miss Keosha Bell. Before we get started, I want to remind everyone that early voting starts Monday, October 16th, and it runs all the way through November 3rd. You can also vote on Election Day, which is November 7th. We recommend that you go ahead and do early voting. That way, you might not have to stand in line. So with that, I'd like to go ahead and introduce the chairperson of Citizens Conversations, Miss Yoshina Colbert Bradford. Yoshina?
Thank you so much, Ron. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for spending dinner with us tonight. We have Keosha Bell here tonight. She is our last candidate, but definitely not the least. And we're so excited to have you this evening. And as always, I'm going to go over a few ground rules, which are very simple. Just one, being very respectful. You have every opportunity to ask any question you like, but just respect. Number two, when you want to ask a question, just raise your hand. We'll call on you. Number three, have fun. Number four, be respectful. And we will also make sure that the candidate, Ms. Bell, as you come on, we give you 2 minutes to go ahead and just let us know who you are. Who is Keosha Bell? You could start off with your platform, or you could just start off like most people have done, is to let us know who you are as a person. And shortly after I get through, you'll get started. So again, thank you, everyone. We know it's dinner time, so everybody's off camera, so you can definitely have your dinner, drink, have a great conversation with Miss Keosha Bell. And without further ado, Miss Keosha Bell, thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you both, Mr. Booth, Yoshina. Thank you for having me and giving us this opportunity to really have a candid conversation with the residents. So I am Keosha Bell. I'm originally from a small town, Athens, Georgia. So if you know the Georgia Bulldogs, I am a Georgia Bulldog fan. I was raised in a Christian household, with my three other siblings. I'm a daughter. I'm an auntie, but most importantly, I am a community advocate. And so I've been out here paving the way for other individuals to really become self-sufficient, but also be able to have a better quality of life. So for me, my focus is serving. We have a lot of platforms. We have a lot of things that we want to propose as candidates. And so I am solely the get out and work person. I roll up those sleeves. I still have on my lashes, but I get out and I believe in serving the community because we need leaders who are able to be relatable, but also have a personality and the energy that welcomes others' inputs, suggestions, as well as concerns. I believe in communication. So I believe in assertiveness by getting the job done, but I also believe in listening. That is one of the main areas of communication. My background is extensive. So I've worked in legal as a legal assistant for well over 10, 15 years, helping with criminal justice reform. I work in an entertainment facility and work with an entertainment attorney. So we work with all types of entertainers, PI cases, all type of criminal cases, but again, fighting for justice. Well over 12 years in education. So I've worked in post-secondary, I've worked in trades, I worked with our youth and young adults, providing an option and a solution so that they can be successful in life. I also have over 20 years in workforce development. So I've worked anywhere from Job Corps, helping individuals find jobs, even to being a managing partner with the Career Center for the whole Southeast region. And so I also believe in entrepreneurship. I own 2 companies. And so one of my companies is really just supporting our men, but also supporting high profile clientele, doing booking, doing talent, and so forth, giving them an opportunity and giving myself an opportunity to utilize organizational skills and management skills. So I definitely handle a lot of different areas. And most importantly, as mentioned, serving. That is my number one goal. That is my passion, to get out and serve, from feeding the homeless to helping what I call seasoned elite or senior citizens, but just helping the people, giving them an opportunity to really thrive. And so it's about taking a problem and creating a solution. And so, a lot of people, I am sweet, I am very professional, I believe in decorum, but at the end of the day, I bite chicken and I don't bite my tongue. And so, I want to be able to stand up and really be a leader that we need in the city of South Fulton and bring better governance, but also be there and be an individual who wants to listen, who wants to do the work and not just sit behind a table pushing paper. I do that already. And then currently I actually work with individuals, special populations. So I actually work with individuals with disabilities, mental health. And so that's a big concern for me, is helping those individuals focus on their abilities and not their disabilities, and also receive the therapy and the guidance that they need. So with all of those skills, I plan on utilizing my resources. I plan on utilizing the skills and the experience that I have, which is why I focus on being the change that we want to see in the community. And that goes from experience. You can't be what you don't know. You can't teach what you don't know, and you can't lead where you don't go. And so I believe in going out to all areas. The ones that people shun upon and don't want to go to, I'm there. Working with the homeless population, I'm there. Working with our youth, I'm there. And so I like to take and address problems as they come.
I must say, absolutely. You do have the most extensive background. And that is good to know. And I love how you said that. Yes, that is the experience. The experience is how you do it through your service and what you're doing every day. So thank you for that. Absolutely.
Thank you.
Me and Ron, we normally kick off the questions because everybody gets shy. I don't know how. But they get shy before they start raising their hand. If you don't raise your hand, you're more than welcome to use the chat. So I would like to start off with my question, and that is, if you were to take this seat and be victorious, how would your first 90 days look?
I appreciate that question. So when I become the next elected councilwoman for District 5, my first 90 days is about, I'm a results-oriented person, so I want to hit the ground running. I want to definitely develop an opportunity to sit with the council. We need to develop a strategic plan and be on one accord. Tying up any loose ends from previous council members and really having an agenda set forth, but also a plan of operation. How are we going to move forward in the spirit of excellence and really progress and move this city forward? Of course, there are going to be some training. So we all need training as a newbie coming on in city council. We all started off as we start in any new job. You have to go through a training. You have to understand the standard operating procedures, and you also have to develop a staff. And so one thing I would want to do is have a staff that is going to be able to support my endeavors, a staff who is knowledgeable about policies, a staff who understands legislations and ordinances and zoning, because of course that can be a bit complicated at times. But I want to really just hit the ground running and develop a community advisory board. We have a lot of HOA boards. We have a lot of boards internally within the city of South Fulton. And a lot of times for residents, their concerns go on deaf ears. They are muted in chats. They don't get the opportunity to voice their opinions. And though we have social media platforms, Nextdoor, Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, that's not always valid information. And so a lot of times we need to get together and come together, because I work for the people. So my goal is being in as a city councilwoman is not about my own personal agenda. It's about getting out here, networking, developing real, long-lasting relationships with the constituents, with the taxpayers, with those individuals that are affected by the decisions of city council. So one thing I really plan on doing is taking that initiative, start developing what I call captains of neighborhoods. We want to incorporate the homeowner associations and the presidents of those HOAs, but I want to hear from the people. And so I am very sincere when I say I am about the people. I have served countless hours doing things for the people unapologetically without a platform. And so in my first 90 days, it's really rolling up my sleeves, putting on my glasses so I can see, putting on my combat if I need to, and really just hitting the ground running. I don't want to get into a position and, figuring out. We want to work together as a team, but more and most importantly, work together as a community. And we need that. We don't know how to move forward unless we have the involvement and the engagement from the community.
Absolutely. We already have some questions coming in from the chat. Looks like we have one, and Ron came off. He's on camera now, so that means he has a question. Ron, you want me to go ahead and get the chat first, or you want to do
Yeah, go right ahead and get the chat, please.
Okay, I have one from Angel Gaines Dingle. How are you this evening? She asked, what are your plans for the youth in South Fulton since you have a background in helping the youth? That's a good question.
That is a good question. And a lot of times it's not that the youth are bad. The youth are not, they didn't just come out the womb breaking in cars. Youth need resources. Youth need people who can advocate for them and be able to support them. We need to have conversations with our youth. We need to find out what our youth need. And by me having a background in education, well over 14 years, working in post-secondary, working with Job Corps, working with all ages from ages 12 and up, I have had the opportunity to speak with our youth. They want more than basketball. They want more than football. We need more educational. We need to focus on our culture. We need to embrace the arts. And one thing that I've already began doing is developing a relationship with our Parks and Recreation Director, Tenard Turner, Tony Jordan. They have been incredible. I was there when he actually presented his new Workforce Academy that developed at Burdette Park. And I commend them. I commend them for all of their hard work, for taking the initiative to create something, that's authentically developed by our Parks and Recreation. And so one thing I've been working on is really trying to expand those services. Because I've worked with a lot of trades, I know that they offer trade opportunities. And so I've already opened myself up, not as a candidate, but because I care about the people and I want to see our teenagers and young adults thrive. So focusing on their education, developing relationships so that we can tap into special needs and being able to serve the special needs population and those youth with mental health. We were shut down for quite some time with pandemic, and a lot of people developed issues or saw issues that occurred from you being shut down with no social engagement, with no social interaction. You're having to be on a computer for many hours. And so my thing is, just as we did with Mayor Khalid and other organizations, putting a gun down, having those type of forums where people can come in and we can communicate with our youth and not bashing them, but being there to support them. So definitely focusing on education, educational opportunities. A lot of people bring things to the table that have a cost associated with it. And so for me, it's all about developing those relationships. So I have relationships developed where people are proudly looking forward to serving the community. And they will come in and they will teach HVAC, they will teach plumbing, they will teach electrician, they will teach cosmetology and so many others opportunities. So mainly give our youth something to do, something to expand their mind, giving them an opportunity to say, I can be better than what I have now. So it's about the mindset change, but we won't know it unless we have that dialogue with our youth. So really creating resources, really giving them other opportunities other than the surface activities, the football, the basketball, and though those are all good, those are organized sports, we want to give you something more. So definitely just focusing on working with Parks and Recreation, making sure that we provide families who have youth and children, making sure they have the resources so that they can thrive. So I think it goes, it's a full circle. We want to make sure we provide services for those parents, those single parents, but we also want to make sure that we provide additional resources and services so that we can capture and get our youth. If you give them something to do, then they won't be trying to knock over my 75-plus-year-old mother to steal her purse and she only had $50. So, giving them something to do and keeping them engaged is important because we got shorter time, the attention spans have definitely decreased over the years. And just focusing on employment, giving our youth something to do, developing, tagging in with workforce development, and creating those WIA opportunities so that they can aid them in going to school and post-secondary. So it's a lot that I want to do with our youth, but it's a lot that I'm already doing. So I want to give them an opportunity to thrive. We don't have to be robbing and breaking in and kicking down doors and showing up on people's rings. We got to give them something to do.
Absolutely. Thank you for that answer. I'm gonna go to, we'll do it in this order. I'm gonna have Ron ask this question, then I'm gonna go to Chavia Jones had a question in the chat, and then we'll get Mr. Snellings. Ron?
Thank you, Yashina. First of all, Ms. Bell, I love hearing you talk. I appreciate that answer you just gave. And I also like your introduction very much. My question to you is, I want you to name two things about the city of South Fulton that you really like, and also two things that you don't care so much about with respect to the city of South Fulton.
Okay. Well, two things that I love a lot about my city. I've been here in the city for well over 8 years. I moved away for probably 2 years, moved away for my company, and then I came right back to home. So I was here before the city became the city of South Fulton. Not necessarily in District 5, but still in the city of South Fulton. And so for me, I've seen the growth, and I definitely admire the growth, not as much growth that we could have, but I admire the growth and I admire education, the schools. One thing I noticed as working in the field that I do, which is mainly helping youth and young adults, and really focusing on the community, is looking at the dropout rates. I work with a lot of youth programs. And so one thing I can say about the city of South Fulton is we don't have that big of a concern here, which makes me feel really good because we don't have a lot of dropouts. We are probably a little bit over 90% as far as students who complete high school, which is really good because that gives me a overlook to be able to provide those transitional services and those post-graduation services. And then another thing I would say is South Fulton is rich in excellence. We have a large population of African Americans, not stating that this is the only demographics or population that we have in the city of South Fulton, but there's a lot of Black excellence here. And so I really look at the companies, the businesses, the entrepreneurs, and I see the growth. I see the existing businesses who have been here well over 20 years, such as grown folks, but I also see how our city is growing, so moving forward, we're growing, but we have to make sure that we have the right things that our residents really need. So those would be the main two: is the education, the high graduation rate. That's exceptional. And then just seeing businesses really be able to thrive and continue to stay right here in this beautiful city of South Fulton. My dislikes. Right now, we've been shown in the media, as a very, negative manner. And I'm not happy about that. When I go and I'm talking about South Fulton and this, and my colleague is like, oh yeah, but y'all were just on the news. I have to be defensive and go to bat, but there's a lot of validity. And so I think if we address a lot of the problems internally the right way, as Fortune 500 companies and other businesses and nonprofits do, then we won't have to be shown that way in the media. So that's something that I really want to change, is just the overall morale of city council. I'm not pleased with that. The unprofessionalism, the cackling, the mess, no lack of cohesiveness, the culture that has kind of permeated here for years, the pay and play type of environment. So that would be one thing. And then we got to make our city look good. I have people and friends and family. My sister lives in Buckhead, so it's a completely different environment. I have friends that live in Fayetteville and Douglasville, and it doesn't mirror how the old National Corridor, even our city, holistically looks. So we have to do better on making it look better, because if you look good, people will want to come. New businesses will be attracted. Residents will understand that we fully are listening to you. Sidewalks, we need sidewalks. We've been waiting on sidewalks just in the old National Corridor. I'll wait for years, and so I am displeased with that. So we got to put some action to what we're proposing. And we have to have accountability. So those would be the main things that I would say that I like and dislike.
Thank you for
Thank
that.
you. Chavia Jones, she asks, how do you plan to continue your work in the community of South Fulton as a councilwoman?
Well, I appreciate that question, Ms. Chavia. One thing, I mentioned briefly is my passion to serve. So council seated or unseated, unbossed, it doesn't matter. I am about the community. So I plan on continuing to do the same things that I'm doing. One thing that I take pride on in my service is helping the emeritus former councilman, Dr. Mark Baker. We passed legislations, not legislations that were discussed, but we passed the first Breonna Taylor ending no knock warrants. We've passed the Crown Act. We've passed decriminalizing cannabis. We've passed banning the box. And so that's all goes into my service, because what people don't know is I was a special projects researcher for all of those legislations. So it was countless hours, long late nights, talking to Dr. Mark Baker, researching information, and based on my experience in legal contracts, looking at different cases and so forth, those are things that I take pride in. So those legislations have already been passed. I continue to serve in the community. I continue to go to Etris Community Center, where we've had different events with our seasoned elite or our senior citizens. I plan on continuing to work with the nonprofit organizations such as One More Question with Dr. Travis Barber. We're consistently going out here. Serving is not one time. Serving is not seasonal. Serving is consistently and continuously. And I think when I look at the candidates in different elections, and not just this election, people start doing things when it's time to get ready to vote. You just continue to do what you're doing. And so for me, unapologetically, I love my people. I want to see us thrive. I want to see us be successful. I want us to have livable wages and income. I want us to be self-sufficient. I want families to grow. And so I will always continue to work with Georgia Feeding Families, passing out boxes of food, giving entrepreneurs a opportunity to come in a safe environment and make money with their businesses. So for me, it's about being the change. So anything that I am standing on as my platform are things that I'm already doing. Yes, I want to propose new ideas. Yes, I want to bring something new to the city. But as far as my service, I'm going to continue to serve the homeless. I'm going to continue to feed them twice a month at Week Street Baptist Church. I'm going to continue to pick up trash off the ground that I just saw somebody throw down, because it's my neighborhood and I take pride in my community. And so my service will never stop. I was born to serve. I was born to lead.
Absolutely. Let me mute Miss. Okay, there we go. Sorry for that interruption. You can go ahead,
Okay.
let me know if you were finished.
Yes, and so I just continue to work with people. I see Ms. Jill Lindsay. So I continue to work with the people that are doing the work. And so I'm not unknown. I'm not unknown to the city of South Fulton. I changed my hair, but I'm not unknown. And the people that do the work, they know me. And I know the people that really do the work in the city that's out here fighting for justice and for change.
Absolutely. Mr. Snelling, thank you for waiting. You're next.
All right. Hey, Ms. Bell, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm sorry to be the one to have to ask this question, but I have to ask it. City of South Fulton literally just appeared on the news a half hour ago, and the city council blamed a mistake on former employees. Payroll issues were blamed on the payroll company. Sanitation issues for double billing were blamed on the tax commissioner. How would you encourage a new experience of accountability and get rid of the blame shifting that we've seen over the last couple of months?
Thank you so much for that question. You mentioned it, accountability. As an elected official, we are held to a higher standard. We're not different than any of our other taxpayers and constituents, but we have to put the accountability on the people that are actually making those decisions. We can't have an error on a report at our company and then blame it on Rashard Snelling because he left 2 weeks ago. You've got to take some accountability. And I think that is the problem that we're facing currently in our council. Accountability is not being taken. If you did something wrong, it's about integrity. So integrity means doing what is right all the time. And doing what is right means treating people right, walking right, living right, and doing what is right no matter when someone else is looking. So if we're talking about accountability, then we have to put the accountability and take responsibility for the error. Oh man, I forgot to process payroll. I apologize. I apologize to the staff, but to blame it on someone that potentially worked here 3-4 weeks ago that would not have even caused that issue, that is not taking responsibility and accountability. And so what we have to do is, one, we have to be, as taxpayers, as constituents, we have to be accountable in who we vote for. We have to make sure that the person that you're voting for is going to really stand up, do what's right, and take accountability. I don't have all the answers. And as moving it forward to become the next councilwoman, I'm not going to have all the right answers. But what I'm not going to do is blame it on my legislative assistant. I'm not going to blame it on the communications department, because everything that we do, you have control over. So you should come out and say, hey, we apologize. Where's the apology? We apologize for the error and the mistakes that were made. We plan on doing better moving forward. And so a lot of times we get people are getting blamed, and then what happens, it ends back up on the 6 o'clock news. And so accountability is not being taken. We have to place the accountability on our city manager as well as the council, because the way the charter is set up, those are the heads of this city, specifically South Fulton. So someone has to be accountable for the decisions that are made. And so for us to blame the payroll or to blame sanitation, we have to communicate, and we have to be sure that we do everything that needs to be done to make sure that there is no issues with miscommunication. We have to make sure that we, as residents, that we're also taking some accountability to be knowledgeable, to change our mindset on how we view things. When we're getting mailers, I've received plenty of mailers before sanitation. I receive plenty of information about sanitation, but that's because I'm active. I attend the city council meetings. I know what's going on in the community. I talk to a lot of our elected officials to find out. I talk to different departments. So for me, it's not a blame game. We have to end that. We have to alleviate that. We've got to make sure that we're going to stand strong, speak up, and do what needs to be done for the residents. We cannot continue to blame it on the next person and blame it on the next person. You've got to take some accountability. And so for me, I believe in being transparent. I always tell people I'm hot, honest, open, and transparent. And so for me, if you're moving in that way, and if you're focused on that, accountability is going to lie on me. If I messed up, I'm going to say, hey, I messed up. I'm new at this. And I'm not going to keep saying that I'm new on my 4th year, because at some point you have to learn. You have to take that responsibility and accountability. So by being transparent, by being open and being honest, we can alleviate some of the questions about who's accountable for what. And so we got to move forward and just be transparent.
Absolutely. I'm enjoying the conversation. I'm gonna go ahead and let Miss Lindsay ask her question, but I had a question myself. No, I'm just kidding. Go ahead, Miss Lindsay. Take yourself off mute. How you doing this evening?
Good afternoon, everyone.
Good evening.
Good evening, brother.
Hey,
Good
Miss
evening.
Bell.
Hey, Miss Lindsay.
Well, you know, I'm gonna bring it. I'm gonna bring it straight to you, and I wanted your opinion on this. We have been dealing with the incumbents campaigning on the right of way. We've been dealing with Pritchard's bench on Old National, and recently we just found out Councilman Reeves is putting his posters in the MARTA stops. Mm-hmm. So we had MARTA come and pull some of them up yesterday. So how do you feel about incumbents breaking the ordinance in broad daylight?
Thank you for that question. And I definitely want to address that because the ordinance was created by council. The ordinance for signs and campaign signs was signed by council members back in October of last year, prior to the election year. And so again, it's accountability. You wrote the policy, you should follow the policy. There is nothing that gives an addendum to the original policy. And as a
Okay, we just muted. Sorry about that. Go ahead, Ms. Bill.
I'm sorry. And, as a council person, we have to follow rules. As a resident, we have to follow rules. And so when there are certain policies in place, there are certain ordinances, there are certain legislations are in place, we have to follow the rules. The laws are the laws. And so what's good for the geese is not sometimes good for the gander. And so if we cannot put our signs in the right of way, no one should be able to put signs, benches, posters, anything. You have to follow the ordinance. And it's difficult and it makes it a challenge, but this is an ordinance that they create, that they signed off on. And so if you had any questions about the ordinance, I created. So again, we have to focus on, we have to get back to the accountability. People are creating policies, but don't want to follow. State of Georgia says you must wear your seatbelt. So if you're riding in the car without your seatbelt and you get pulled over, you can't be upset at the officer for giving you a ticket. You did not follow the rules. And so I believe that there are rules in place, but there's also consequences. And if that means being fined, if that means code enforcement removing your signage, if that means your signs being taken or destroyed, we have to follow. And that, again, in order for this city to move forward, we're going to have people that are accountable. We're going to have to have people that know how to follow rules. And it's about professionalism. It's about courtesy. How can you write an ordinance and not allow me to put my sign in the right of way, but yours is in the right of way? That's not fair. And we want to give everybody the same playing field that you have, the same opportunities. We want equality as well. And so if you can put your poster board up on the MARTA, I need to go put my yard sign. But I know that's not the rules. So I don't want to, not follow the rules because the rules are what they are. So I appreciate that question, Ms. Lindsay. And, they need to be taken down. We have to follow what the ordinance is. We know it. It was printed out. It was given to us in a book when we qualified. It was emailed to us by the clerk, Corey Adams. We know it. And so if you're choosing to not abide by the policy, then shame on you. Shame on you for writing something and then not abiding and feeling like because you're in position, you have an opportunity to do what you want. That's the problem. And so that's why this race and this election is important, so that we can get people who can follow the rules and give everyone a level playing field, so that we can all be on one accord. We're not on one accord, because if you're on one accord, it just says church, the Bible, anything else you want to use, then you will follow that. And that's my 2 cents on that.
All right, amen. Now I can go to church right now.
Mr. Snellings.
Sorry about that. Should council members who disrupt the meeting be escorted out by law enforcement just like a resident would, should they disrupt the meeting? And I have a follow-up to this too. Huh?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I've been in city council meetings, and they have not always been as professional as we would like them to be. We've had arguments between council, including my incumbent, and they've had to either calm them down, pull someone out. And so a lot of times, if you are a resident and you're coming in to have an opportunity to do public comment, and if your time is over, they'll stop you. And so if you are irate, if you cannot follow by the rules and be professional and have decorum, which there is a ordinance or written up about decorum, escort them out. If that occurred with a resident, escort them out, because see, the city council, we're supposed to be about the people's business. And so what you cannot do is take care of business in chaos. You cannot take care of the people's business and do what the residents need in chaos, in turmoil, in mess. And so a lot of times things need to be shut down. And our mayor, he is there. He tries to get order. And we've had other council members who've tried, who definitely mentioned decorum, and it's not followed. So yes, I agree. Escort them out.
All right, and then my follow-up question, since you mentioned decorum, what changes would you recommend to the decorum ordinance to ensure that the ordinance is enforced if our elected officials make the decision not to enforce it in an effort to protect their own?
I've thought about that previously, and after I've been at a lot of council members and see how the decorum ordinance was violated, we have to set certain rules in place. There are consequences to every action. And so if you cannot display a certain level of professionalism, decorum, meaning not being on your cell phone, not having sidebar conversations, you are an elected official because we have elected you to represent the people. And for a lot of times I look, you're not a representation of me, talking and being disrespectful. You're not listening and giving your attention to residents and taxpayers. That's problematic. That is a problem. And that's what we currently see. You can go back and play any city council meetings and you will see people eating. You might as well order a box of wings and get them ordered by Uber Eats, because you're not focusing on the residents' needs. You're not focusing on what the individuals are saying during public comment. And that's disrespectful. So for me, we've got to set up, moving forward, I would definitely be setting up guidelines. If you violate decorum, just as if you're a student in a class and you are a class clown and you're disruptive, ask you to leave, because your focus should be on taking care of that agenda, going through that agenda and making decisions that benefit our people. You can't do that talking and eating and on your cell phone. We are paying you as taxpayers. You get a salary as a city council elected official. So when you come into those meetings, when you're at different events, I expect you to do the work. And I expect you to give me your undivided attention and your respect, because that's what I deserve. And so, yes, we need to set certain rules. If you cannot follow being professional and decorum, get them out, because we have business to conduct and we have people that are there to hear the business. And you can't take 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes on an argument going back and forth. That's unprofessional.
Absolutely. All right. So we have, I'm going to ask my question really quick. After I ask my question, I'm going to have I'm going to go to the chat to Angel Gaines Dingle. She had another question, and Miss Perry ended up raising her hand as well too. So I tell you what, just to be fair, since I'm the moderator, I'm gonna go ahead and go to the chat, and then I'll go to Miss Perry, and then me and Ronna go last. Angel Gaines Dingle, she asked, what can you bring to D5 that is different from what is already being done now? That's a good question.
That is a great question. That makes me say, So for one thing, just basing it a little bit, just to piggyback on the question that was just asked by Mr. Snellings, professionalism, decorum, showing up and showing up on time. A lot of times our incumbent now shows up, but he's late. And we all know when the city council meetings are. We all know when these candidate forums are scheduled. And so I believe in showing up on time, but also being prepared to do the job, whether that means listening, communicating, or making a decision. And so for one, definitely a level of professionalism, definitely a level of decorum, but also putting in the work. So a lot of times we get elected officials in office and they go out and they do the work to get elected, but then once they're in office, we can't find them. We don't see them at community events that are held in their district. For me specifically, I did with one for the Dortch family, we did the Christmas toy drive. We've done a lot of back to school drives. We've done giving out food right in District 5. And unfortunately, our incumbent hasn't been present. And so one thing I plan on doing is remaining present. remaining relevant, not to be seen, but relevant to make change and serving. And so I believe in serving unapologetically, creating new ideas, bringing new services and resources to our community, not just for the youth, because we've talked about the youth at the beginning, but for our seasoned elite. They need more resources. We need to see the old National Corridor, Jerome Road cleaned up. We need to see part of Buffington Road cleaned up. So we need District 5 clean. I'm willing to work with Miss Lindsay because she's already doing the work and out there actively cleaning. So again, bringing in those nonprofit organizations, bringing in those other organizations that are already live and doing work in the city, but working with them. So I plan on being present. I plan on being active. I plan on continuing to serve. I plan on bringing professionalism and decorum, but I also plan on doing work that I've created, not tagging my name on an event because it's in my district, actually doing the work. I have event plan. I've been an event planner well over 25 years, have my own event planning company. So a lot of events I can plan, but they're going to be able to benefit the residents and our community as a whole, but affordable, not eating up our budgets. So managing budgets, utilizing budgets and utilizing monies and allocating dollars for events and services that are going to benefit our community holistically. So, just bringing a new, fresh ideas, and being innovative, bringing an energy, bringing my personality so I can get to talk to everybody. I have no respect of person. So those are the things that I'm going to bring that's going to be different from what we have now, but mainly serving. In order to lead, you need to serve, and not serve seasonally, serve consistently, because how do you know what the residents need unless you're out there with them? So those are just a few things, public safety, really collaborating and working more with the departments that are within, but focusing on our entrepreneurs and working with the organizations that have already been established in the community in the city of South Florida.
Absolutely. Tanya, how do you pronounce your first name?
Yeah,
it's Kandia. Kandia.
Okay, thank you for that. You can go ahead with your question.
All right. Hi, Keosha.
Hey, Miss Carrie.
So I've got two things. Well, one is a comment, then next is a question. It's going to lead into the question. One of the things, I was at the city council meeting February 14th, and there was so much infighting. They had gone into executive session, fighting and arguing. They came out, they were still arguing. So, our current councilman, he got up and walked out. I don't know if he was the first or second one to walk out. And then I'll just say Corey got up and walked out, which was very embarrassing. Just walked out of the meeting. Linda Pritchett followed. And so I'm really hoping that every seat that's up for grabs right now, I really hope we get people in there that are going to respect the constituents and really put the constituents first, because right now it seems like everybody in city council is looking out for self, and it's all about what they want. And so anyway, and I got up and spoke because that infighting is the same type of infighting that is going on with our board of directors here. I'm a resident and a homeowner here at Camelot Club. And so that leads into my question to you, the same question I asked Calvin last night. We know we've got some work to do within our community, but if you are elected to District 5 as District 5's city council person, what do you feel would be your responsibility, or do you think it is the responsibility of the council person to step in and oversee, or not oversee, but to step in? What role do you feel the council person for District 5 would play when it comes to not only Camelot, but other HOAs that are having issues and crime in your district?
Thank you. Thank you so much for that question, Ms. Perry, because that's a major concern. And so at the beginning, I was talking about, just being out in the community and serving unapologetically without a platform. That's what my passion. And so a couple of things that I've done is even last year, Bear Seals, Bear Strong, myself, some other community activists. We all came out in Camelot. See, a lot of people want to shun away from the problem, but I like to go to it and see what the problem are. What are people talking about? What are their concerns? So I had an opportunity to go into a young lady, I call her a young lady, but she's one of our seasoned elite, in her apartment. We've got a lot of crime that occurs in that area, but that's not the only place. That's just the only place that we hear about more crimes within our city, because there, believe me or not, there are other places that have crime as well. So for me, working with our code enforcement department, making sure that I'm working with the police department. I know the officer, the sergeant that's actually assigned to that beat on Old National in that specific area, but also getting out and talking to the residents. No one can tell me what Camelot needs better than an actual resident. No one can tell me about the mold unless I've seen it. I've seen it. No one can tell me about the rats that are crawling up in the ceiling. I've heard it. I've stood there in an actual unit and heard that. I even spoke with a former homeowner who owned a condominium years ago in Camelot, when it was prestigious, when it was beautiful, when it had the little person at the gate, the security officer signing everybody in. That's Dominique Wilkins, our former NBA player. And so a lot of them, a lot of celebrities, a lot of high-profile individuals, we've been talking about that. What can they do, being former homeowners? What can they do to help? And so for me, it's about networking, collaborating with the different departments to hold them accountable. Code enforcement, you have a job to do. And we know that there are a lot of citations that probably will be given to homeowners, HOAs, and so forth. But I also want to work with the HOAs. But again, my first concern is working with the residents. And so a lot of people will suggest close down Camelot. It's not that easy. And what we don't want to do is displace actual residents like yourself, like other families that are over there. That's not our objective, but we do want to find a solution. And so we know that crime is an issue. We talked about that a little bit earlier during this call on what we can do, providing different services. If we see that our youth are the ones causing most of them, and it's not just the youth, it's some adults as well. So it's about changing the mindset, but also providing police protection. People say police protection, we don't need that. We do. We need police presence. We need to see, because if I'm driving 90 down Old National and I see an officer, we start breaking. So we need that presence in our community. We need faster response time. So when there is an incident that's occurring, the police officers instantly get there, not after 2 hours and a murder has already occurred. So it's about, for me, working with those departments. I don't want to step on anybody's toes, but it is a responsibility as everybody. It's not just the responsibility of code enforcement and police and the residents. It would still be my responsibility as the councilwoman, because I have a passion for people, and no one should live in an environment where they don't feel safe, where there's inadequate resources, where there's inadequate and inhabitable places, because some of those places I feel sincerely feel empathy for how the conditions are over there. So what we did is we came out and we did toiletries. We gave out cases of water for those individuals who did not have water at the time. We gave toiletries, socks, and tissue and toothpaste and all of those things. And that's not a lot, but that's something. And so we wanted to step in last year, even with New Era, and brought food out there. We provided free food, fresh produce, meats, toiletries, and everything. That was something that I took part of. And so I want to bring the resources to the residents, but I also want to hear, what do y'all need? Because you're a resident, you live there, and you have the better scope of Camelot than any of us. And so a lot of times we are getting information about Camelot that's not always true. We're getting information that is not fully developed information. It's hearsay, or it's next door news. And so a lot of times we got to get back to the neighbor. We got to be a neighbor before we can focus on the neighborhood. And so I am that friend, that neighbor who wants to get out and try to combat crime. but be able to give a resource to the residents over there and be able to provide a solution. So moving forward, we know how to address the concerns, because we can't just tear it down. I talked with the parent who just lost her son. It was actually her second son that she's lost over there. And I embraced her and I showed her empathy because she was at the city council meeting, made a public comment, specifically asked a question to the council, and didn't get any results. And the way that she was treated from me was unprofessionally. And so I instantly got up and ran out, not because I'm a candidate, but because I care. And so when you get to people who really care and have a passion for people, then they will find out a solution. And so one thing I plan on doing is working with the actual residents. We've been over there, making sure I know a couple of people went out there and made sure that everybody was registered to vote, because looking at the super voters, there were only 2 in that area. And so it's important for me to really work with the residents and see what we can do to change and combat crime. So yes, it's the responsibility of everybody. People will say, oh, let the city manager do their job. Let the code enforcement do their job. Let public safety do their job. But what are we doing as a neighbor, as someone who really cares? And so, yes, it's a responsibility of mine, and it should be a responsibility of everybody in our city to do what we can do for you, Miss Perry, and every other person that lives over there that need resources and that wants to see a change. So we need to have a meeting once in office on the residents. Let's talk about what the problem. Let's give me what you see, and let's have it with the appropriate people who can actually make change.
I love that response so much. And I want us to be mindful of the time. Sorry, Yoshina. We only have about 9 minutes left, and we want to make sure you get your 2 minutes to kind of do your closeout. So be mindful of that when you answer the next couple of questions. I think I have one, and then I believe Yoshina may have one. My question is, you saw the situation with the solid waste rollout. It's been on the news. People have been complaining about it. People were complaining about it and actually talking about all the things that could go wrong way back to October of 2022, before it was even thought about being rolled out. And they kept warning, what about the seniors? What about backdoor service? What about how are we going to pay for it? Is it going to be a lump sum? Is it going to be on our taxes? And some people said, no, it's not a tax. It was a disaster. What would you have done differently with respect to that rollout for solid waste?
First and foremost, I would have gotten with the residents. I would have, you have options. We go to a restaurant, you have different options. So what we want to do is present the options. Have them do a presentation like we do presentations at city council meetings. Have them do a presentation so that we as the community can actually make a decision on what we want, what the cost may be once they have developed, taken into account how many people and so forth. But I don't remember sitting on any meetings and asking for my opinion. I received information, a card, emails, and attended city council, and that's how I knew who was selected. So again, we got to get back to the community. How can you just plan something for the taxpayers and you don't even know what we want? And no one, I think, gave an opportunity to residents to say, hey, how do you feel about this? Whether or not they took our feedback, give us an opportunity to give some feedback about it before it's just initially rolled out. I think there could have been a little bit, I know people say there was a lot of communication, there was a lot of mailers. I only received 1 mailer. But again, by me being active in city council meetings, I heard a lot of information. But everybody can't make and attend the city council. Everyone doesn't have internet so that they can see the reports and information that's disseminated. So we have to do a better job of communicating. We need to have more town hall meetings. We need to do robocalls. The same communication efforts that you put into running for office is the same communications that we need to focus on when we're communicating to our residents. If you got to knock on doors to let people know, you need to do whatever you need to do. Sending out mailers, sending out, different letters, making sure that it's posted on the tax. If we don't blame it on mortgage company and tax, let's make sure that it's visible there. So again, we have to do our due diligence to make sure that everybody understands what is taking place. Even with that, I won't put it all blame on council, but we as residents, homeowners, taxpayers, we've got to also take some liking into what's going on. We've got to say, hold on, let's voice our opinion. Let's get together and all go to city council and say it. And hopefully we can get some results, because a lot of times we share information on social media. We need to be grouping up as other cities do, group up, write a letter, contact the state rep, whatever we have to do. We need to be able to do that so that we can stand for change. We can stand up and say, we don't agree with this. They did create a swap program, which assisted many residents, including our senior citizens. But there were a lot of questions. A lot of our senior citizens or seasoned elites, they're on fixed incomes. So they may not have had $200 and plus. You want to make sure you take that into account before you're making a decision. Backdoor service. We have people with disabilities.
Thank you. Sorry to cut you off, but we have a
we don't want to cut you off. It's been
That's
good.
right. Thank
So,
you.
2 things before we wrap up. We actually have 4
Okay.
minutes. I'm going to get Miss Lindsay question really quick, and then I'm gonna cut you off with the 2-minute mark so you give us
Okay.
2 minutes. And then if you don't mind, can you just stay a little bit after we will stop the recording at 8?
Okay.
Okay, Miss Lindsay.
I don't know if it's gonna be a short answer, but here we go. Last week I went to the South Fulton Development Authority's meeting, and they voted to have the public comments before the meeting even started. And for the last year, we've been the citizens have been not able to express their concerns unless it's on the agenda. How do you feel about silencing taxpayers?
I don't agree with it. I believe taxpayers are pivotal to our community. So at the end of the day, we need to hear from you. You can't silence. And so that's why I'm the voice for the voiceless and the voice for the muted. We need public comments. And I don't see a problem with public comments unless you are shunning upon your bad decisions. So as taxpayers, we need to take your comments into consideration. And I'm definitely fighting to restore public comment. I want to hear what y'all have to say, whether it's telling me my button is missing, because sometimes public comment can be a little not on task, but we want to still give our residents and our taxpayers an opportunity to voice their opinions and concerns. And I feel like you should be able to speak on anything that is relative and relatable to our city. Doesn't have to just be on agenda. You didn't set the agenda. So why do you have to stay focused on what's only on that agenda? You didn't know it, So I believe we need to be receptive to hearing all types of information, all types of feedback from our taxpayers.
Great job. So we're right at the 2-minute mark. We're going to give you 2 minutes to close this out. And I actually have to say, Ms. Perry, thank you for your comment in the chat. And I absolutely agree. I hate that more people don't log in to get their questions answered because everybody's on Nextdoor. But hopefully you all can continue to get this out and let them know. Replay it. I did have neighbors call and say, hey, I looked at another video of a candidate and I thought I had my mind made up, just like Ms. Perry did. So thank you. So you have your 2 minutes. Go right ahead.
Thank you so much. So again, thank you, Mr. Booth and Yoshana, for this opportunity. And thank you to the residents, our constituents, our taxpayers, for your service and your accountability as being a part of the city of South Fulton. The residents need better governance. We need organized governance. We need professionalism and decorum. And so those are the things that I want to bring to the table, and we'll bring accountability and integrity. I believe in being altruistic, serving selflessly. And so I believe in serving our community and providing services. And so my mission is all about restoring trust, transparency, and ethics in our city, doing whatever we need to do to keep and create a safer environment and community. So public safety and violence prevention, economic and workforce. We want new businesses, but we've got to attract the new businesses once we clean up everything else that needs to be cleaned up. Workforce development. We want the people here in our city to be able to live here with livable wages, but also work here and play here. We want to also make sure that we're providing resources, attainable resources, and things that are beneficial to our seasoned elite or our senior citizens, as well as individuals with disabilities and mental health. That is my focus. And in addition to that, making sure that we focus on education and youth services. We want to provide self-sufficiency. We want to make sure that our city can move forward in the spirit of excellence. And so based on my experience, based on my skills that I bring to the table, based on work experience and my history and actions, proven actions of serving in the community, I plan on being a great representative and a great councilwoman for District 5 and for the city of South Fulton. I believe in the residents. I believe that you're voting me as a representative of District 5, but I represent the city. And so I believe in moving with the spirit of excellence, being professional, integrity, and accountability, and the voice for the voiceless and the voice for those who've been muted. And so I definitely encourage everyone to seek out more information on all candidates, but I can be reached directly at www.vote4 Keosha, Keosha, Bell, Bell.com. And I just believe in being the change that we want to see in our community, being the change that we want to see in District 5 and in the city of South Fulton. And so I'm encouraging each and every one of you to encourage your friend, your family, your neighbor to get out and vote. Early voting begins on Monday, October the 16th. We need your vote. We have a lot of important seats, and this is an important election. And so we need people to go out and ring the bell for change as we move forward in the city of South Fulton and in District 5. And definitely, if you have any questions, feel free to contact me. My information is on my website, and I'm just one call away. And keep in mind, I bite chicken, but I do not bite my words. And so I am all about standing up for the residents and moving forward this city and listening to my residents. So I thank you again.
Thank you.
Hey, I'll go ahead and close it out if that's all right, Yoshina.
Yes.
Okay, first of all, I'd like to thank our chairperson, Ms. Yoshina Colbert Bradford. She's responsible for putting these things on. So everybody, when you get a chance, please give her a big thank you. It was her idea. Also, if you can hang on, we'll stay here as long as Ms. Bell is available, but we are going to stop the recording. So the last thing I want to remind you of is early voting begins Monday, October 16th, runs through November 3rd, and election day is November 7th. And regardless of who you vote for, please vote. And with that, we'll go ahead and stop the recording. Thank you so much, Ms. Bell. We appreciate you, and I love your passion. Thank you.